Cheninoff, and welcome to Sure Things. On today's show, it's very informative. We get to learn about the Madison Historic Society. And I'd like to welcome the Executive Director, Jennifer Simpson. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hi. I just have to say, this all happened that for some reason I get emails from Madison because I did something there. And anyway, I saw the advertisement for your lecture series. And that's how I got interested in pursuing our time to talk. But also looking at your website, there's so much that you offer, so I am really excited to get into it. And then, of course, later on, talk about that amazing documentary that you did.
Sounds great.
So Jennifer, why don't we get started by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background at the Historical Society.
Sure. So I've lived in Madison for just over 6 years. My family and I moved here from New Haven in 2014. And I really just wanted to get more involved in the town. You know, my children, when we moved, were in 3rd and 4th grades. So as a parent, you feel a little disconnected from the community when you don't have those younger formative years to make friends and meet people. So I was fortunate enough that someone on the board worked with my husband and made us aware of an opening. And so I applied for it. So my background, I had not worked for a nonprofit before. I had done public relations, but you know, I was a professional. So when I applied, you know, we all meshed and gelled, and I've been here ever since. I've been here now 6 years. It'll be 6 years in February, and I just love it. It's a wonderful organization. It's a dynamic organization. We have a very active and engaged board, and it's been great. I've been, you know, now I'm very connected in the town, which was what I wanted, and I also am well grounded in the history of the town as well. So I feel very connected here now.
That's wonderful. You know, where are you actually based? Because I noticed on the website there were a few different buildings, but where is the Madison Historical Society actually based?
So we used to be, well, I'll tell you where we are right now is on the green. We are in, our administrative office is in the Lee's Academy, which is named eponymously for Captain Frederick Lee, who was one of our town founders. And it's a 2-story schoolhouse built in 1821 that we assumed in 1923. And so our administrative office is up on the 2nd floor, and on the lower level we have an exhibition space, which is actually getting a complete renovation this year because we won a rather sizable state grant. So, but we also maintain a historic house museum, and that is on the Post Road here in Madison, and that building dates from 1785, and that's where we house our collection of artifacts of over 6,000 objects that we, you know, maintain.
And what is the name of that building that you?
That's the Alice Bushnell House,
okay, named
for the first and last owners of the house itself.
Okay, great. Now, being that we're in the middle of COVID, is that building open? Do you have exhibits that people can see, or is that all virtual?
You know, so at the moment it is all virtual. We have been, I want to say, you know, among the nonprofit, you know, historical societies in the state, probably at the forefront of digitizing our collection. So we have a Flickr page, which I don't think I shared with you, but if you go onto Flickr, which is FLICKR.com, and search for the Madison Historical Society, I think we have over 8,000 or 9,000 images up at the moment. And that's not just, strictly speaking, our collection. The collection represents, of the images that are posted, maybe 4,000 of those images. The other images really are the programming that we do, the lecture series that we do, the educational programs we run, the home tour that we do annually. A couple of years ago, we started to do a lantern tour around the holidays. So there are, like I said, around 8,000 or 9,000 images, and that's where we've been digitizing our collection. So if people are interested, everything is organized in albums. We have a wonderful, wonderful volunteer who is also the collections chair and is an amateur photographer. He's taken amazing images. So you can really explore our collection online at the moment on Flickr.
Yeah.
But the house museum is not open at the moment.
It's not open. And when I looked on the website to look at some of the events, I love the idea of the holiday lantern tours. Did that actually happen this year?
It did not. It did not. We kind of shut down everything because the lantern tour, just like the historic, the home tour that we do, people have gone into people's homes. They've invited them in small groups, and we do these wonderful, reenactments. And it just wasn't possible. So I think we kind of modeled ourselves a little bit after the Mystic tours that they do, with the variation that people were actually going inside the buildings along the green. And it just wasn't possible.
Okay,
So
yeah. I didn't
hopefully
realize
this coming year.
I didn't realize that people were going in, because I saw the
Yeah.
house tours were canceled. But
Yeah.
I'd like to ask about another event mentioned on your website was your book group. Are your monthly book groups being held, and if so, how are they doing?
So the book group is alive and well, and in the colder months, they are meeting via Zoom, meeting virtually, and we've actually been adding members to the book group. It's a wonderful group, and they explore all kinds of books. And one of the first books they did this year was on the issue of social justice, which is also the topic of our Lee lecture series. And then in the warmer months, they've been meeting outside. They meet at the Alice Bushnell house. There's a lovely garden behind the house, and they all, bring along a lawn chair and, maybe a glass of wine or something like that. And they sit out and discuss the books, but it's a committed group of history enthusiasts. So, and we have some people actually now that join, from far-flung places. One of the members of the group does kind of 5 or 6 months of the year in London. So she and her husband connect remotely, and it's great. It's been going on for, I don't even know how many years, at least 10 before my time. So.
Do you happen to know, Jennifer, just offhand, how many people are in the group? Like I looked at the books today. I love the selections, but I also know sometimes with the Zoom groups, if you get above a certain number, it's hard to have any kind of discussion.
Right. I think it's about 12 to 15 members. So not overwhelming. I mean, I know they're always welcoming new members, but it kind of hovers around a dozen, I think.
Yeah. I certainly thought that was so interesting. And do you know offhand with that book club, is it one that you could pick one, for instance, the one, if I was interested in the book about 1919, what was going on, could I just join for that book?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The man who runs it, his name is Lyle Cubberley. He's just a delightful man, so enthusiastic, and reads constantly. So on our website, his information is listed. You can just reach out to Lyle. He would respond very promptly and provide the Zoom link. So there's no pressure or commitment. If you want to pop in for one book and then they don't see you for 3 or 4 months and then you come back, they're always very welcoming. So they would be happy to welcome new members at any time.
Well, again, I just want to say I thought the selections, because I went through the entire calendar there, I thought you had varied selections, and I thought it was wonderful. But yeah. I did want to talk about the lecture series, because that, again, is the first thing that caught my eye. Yep. I believe there are three shows in the series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a 3-part series. It was designed, it started, I think, 14 years ago. And initially, I think they tried different times of the year, but they landed on doing 3 winter months when they thought it would be, a time when people would want to try to get out of their homes for an informative talk. The talks have covered all kinds of, generally speaking, hyper local topics. So that it's, some years they've done interesting Madison homes, they've done Madison farms, we did Madison women one year, and then we've also kind of broadened it. So this year it is a little bit more broad. The topic is sugar, slavery, and social justice. And we kind of landed on that topic, following the death of George Floyd. It just seemed like the right time to kind of address this topic and explore it a little bit more in depth. So the first talk, which has already happened because the series happens in January, February, and March, is the second Sunday of the month. Obviously now we're meeting virtually via Zoom, which I have to say some people have said they prefer in many ways, because when you're doing a lecture, we typically meet at the First Congregational Church. It's hard because people who are sitting further back in the room, they can't really see the screen. And so now via Zoom, when the presenter shares their screen, everyone can see the slides. And so many people commented that they almost preferred the Zoom platform because it was easier to see the slides. But the first lecture was last Sunday with Dr. Matthew Warshauer, who is a professor of history at Central Connecticut State University. Such an informative talk about our connection, specifically Connecticut's connection to the West Indies slave trade. And it was all driven by sugar and sugarcane. So it was just a fascinating talk. I did record the talk, but I'm a little bit of a Zoom novice, so I have to kind of figure out how to get it off my computer and onto the website so people can access it. But he set the stage for the talk Then in February, on Valentine's Day, actually, Dennis Culleton, who is the executive director and founder of the Witness Stones Project, which is a wonderful project that started in Guilford, he basically has done research and is celebrating the lives of enslaved people in Madison and Guilford. So he's going to tell a few stories about enslaved people here in Madison. And the connection to the third presenter, who is Pat Wilson Phineas, she was a former state representative in the 53rd district, I think it was. It's Willington, Tolland, and Ashford. When Dennis Culleton was researching, he discovered that Pat Wilson Phineas is a direct descendant of enslaved people in Guilford. Wow. So she traces her history back all the way back to, before the American Revolution, and says that a member of her family has fought in every American war. So she has a fascinating story to tell. Her dad was a Tuskegee Airman and just such a proud American. She, like I said, was a former state representative and has been a social activist, her whole career basically. But she's going to tell the story of her family. And as an African-American woman, we'll also talk about, being Black in America, what that has meant, and the challenges that come with being Black in America. So it just seemed like the right time. And it's a series that we are proud to present, and we're now in our 14th year. So we're alive and well and going strong.
That sounds amazing. And I just want to support your quest in your growth mindset to learn how to get that Zoom onto the site, because I did register and I did miss that first lecture. So I am hoping to see it, but I am looking forward to the other two. But I was really very interested in the whole series because I think it sounds amazing.
Great.
The other part that I noticed too on the website is the pandemic. It's called Pandemic 2020, but the project you have going on about the pandemic and how people can add stories. Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. So in the very beginning, I want to say it was the second or third week of March, almost a year ago now, the executive committee and a few members of the education committee, we all came together and we started to brainstorm. We said, how are we going to stay relevant, and what are we going to do now that everyone is in lockdown? So one of the first things we decided to do was establish a pandemic archive. So the archive is a place where people can go onto the website and upload stories, upload images, written reflections, videos, or even voice memos. Anyone could record a voice memo and upload it. So it's a digital archive that is a compilation of all of these things. So any thoughts, poems, anything. We had a gentleman that sent us his whole journal that he had been keeping since early April. So he sent us a journal of maybe a month and a half or 2 months in the early days of the pandemic. So the archive has been there for a while, and people do continue to submit. I actually just went back recently and looked, and there was a submission from a nurse from Yale New Haven who had submitted photos of herself, and you could see all the images, the outlines of the face mask that she was wearing, and then a lovely poem written by a colleague of hers, which I think I'm going to incorporate into an article for a monthly publication that I write for her. And so the archive is great. It's a wonderful resource, for people 100 years from now to look back and say, well, how did people in Madison experience the pandemic?
Wow.
A couple of other things we did was we started doing more educational videos. So we've launched a YouTube channel. We have one video up right now. Another one is in the works. The second one is actually on Daniel Hand, and our high school is named for Daniel Hand. He was a great philanthropist. And we also did a history mystery guessing game. That was an online guessing game. It was a way for us to feature items from our collection and then engage the public. So we would upload videos that were shot by Daniel Hand High School students for the most part, and people had to guess what the item was. They could just submit an answer on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and then we would select a winner from all the correct answers, and we would give away gift cards to local businesses. So it was also a way for us to support local businesses in what was such a very challenging time.
It's amazing how active your whole website is, and all the amazing events and activities for people too. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about an amazing documentary that was also produced. Be right back.
I'm here to talk about how we're going to defeat COVID-19. Well, we got to bring our A game. What's our A game? Here's the strategy. Get tested, stay social distancing, wear masks. Community Health Center has testing sites all over the Connecticut, open 7 days a week, and they're free for anybody, babies, students, senior citizens, anybody. So go in and get tested. That's how we can all stay undefeated.
Find a location near you at chc1.com.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide. It provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Hi, welcome back. Today we're talking with Jennifer Simpson, who is Executive Director at the Madison Historical Society. Welcome back, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Hi. So Jennifer, I really want to get into all about the documentary that you produced recently. Can you tell us the origins of it and the process?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the origins of the documentary really come from the fact that as a historical society, as Madison's only historical society, we wanted to document what was happening in our town, which we feel is emblematic of what was happening in small towns all across the shoreline, all across the state, and across the country. What really happened is somewhat of a funny story in the sense that I walk my dogs every morning with a good friend of mine, and his son is a budding film director, and he writes a lot. He and his very good friend formed a production company. I think it was in 2019. It's called Cine Verite Productions. So on a whim, I was walking with my friend Larry, and I said, I really wanted to do something, to really document what's happening with the pandemic. And he said, well, you should speak to Connor, because Connor is not doing anything. He had lost his job because he was working at the movie theater. The movie theater had shut down, and he was, he had at loose ends, if you will. So I said, well, why don't we get together, see if we can, put together this project. And what started out as Connor and I just meeting and brainstorming to talk about, who would we want to interview? How would we want to tackle this? And we said, well, we want to try to reach various elements of the population. So we spoke to Peggy Lyons, who I think you recently interviewed. We spoke to Noreen Kokaruda. So we kind of met with government, elected officials. We met with the principal of Daniel Hand to talk about how it was affecting the schools. We met with business owners and the head of the Chamber of Commerce, religious leaders. We really just tried to get a cross section. We met with students to talk about how it was impacting them, particularly graduating seniors. And it all evolved, kind of really organically. What was just kind of, I have an idea, let's do this project, turned into, we met with a COVID-19 survivor even, it was just such an amazing experience because the filmmakers had a vision in the sense that they really wanted to film everything during the statewide shutdown. So we started filming in early April and we wrapped by, I think, May 20th. So just before things started to open up again. And it was amazing. It was just such an amazing experience. And working with Garrett and Connor of Cine Verite was just so phenomenal. They're young, they're aspiring, but so dedicated to their craft. They not only did all of the photography, all the filming, they did all of the editing. We worked collectively, together on the production. I kind of handled more the production side of things, setting up all the interviews, making all the contacts. But but the film itself, how it came together, was quite a bit their vision with input from us. But phenomenal experience.
It is. It's so professional. What is the title?
The title is "Turning the Tide: Madison and COVID-19."
Okay, and there's the graphic. It was so professionally done, Jennifer. Mm-hmm. Looking at it, as I said, I was so inspired and impressed by that. And as I know you noted that it really quit filming in May, and it says that also in the documentary. It gives that timeline. Looking at that and looking at the impact that's had on the community, are there any other plans on a follow-up or a continuation of some of those stories?
Yeah, I don't think so at the moment. Where it was such a labor of love. It was hard work. It is hard work making a documentary film. We did probably about 60 hours of filming, which was boiled down to about 27 or 28 minutes of actual, final polished footage. But just the 60 hours of filming doesn't even hold a candle to the hundreds of hours of editing that Connor and Garrett put into it to tell the story. So at the moment, we don't have any plans to. I mean, I would be happy to. I think that would really come down to funding. We were very, very fortunate in that we got funding from the Madison Foundation, which is our local community foundation. And then we also received a $5,000 quick grant from CT Humanities. And without that quick grant, the editing just wouldn't have been possible, because to be honest with you, Garrett and Connor, when they signed on to the project, which they thought was just going to be a small little project, they agreed to do it for nothing, with no funding at all. And then as we got into it, we became very committed to try to get funding for them. So, So at the moment, there are no future plans to do a follow-up, but who knows?
Who knows? I just wondered, the other part I wondered about with the whole production process of it was the music. Did you have, how did that come about? Was there a musical director, or again, was that just Connor and Garrett's influence?
It's just Connor and Garrett, and they actually, they buy into a service. So they have access to X number of songs that they can use it's a fee-based service that they subscribe to. So they just have a wonderful eye, a wonderful sense. I mean, it's young. I'm talking, they're 20 years old. I mean, they are just starting out, but they have just a great eye, a great sense of storytelling, and just a wonderful sense of putting it all together. So the music was all their selections.
It went so well with everything. Was that the use of a drone? I love the scenery shots as well.
Yeah, so they have a connection with again a friend, a young man that they know, and they went out one day and they did all the drone footage. So
wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was awesome. For someone who wants to make sure they can tune into that documentary, how would they find it, Jennifer?
So it is on YouTube, and you can link to it from our website. If you go to our website, right now I think it's just you have to click through from the banner that's on the main slider on our homepage. But I'm also going to put it up on the website as well. I've been meaning to do it, and then just got waylaid with other things. But you can connect to it through our website.
Yeah, well, that's certainly worthwhile. Again, I thought it was very, very impactful, and I told my neighbors about it because I thought it was, again, a piece of history that we're actually all living through, which is amazing. Looking ahead for the Historical Society in Madison and the events you have had, do you look ahead to what your goals might be, or just even still during the pandemic, other activities you might be implementing to engage the community?
For sure. So one of the big things that we are working on this year in 2021, I think 2021 is going to really be our year of focusing on our historic buildings that we maintain. So we have two major projects. I alluded to the first one in the beginning. We won a major state grant, just under $140,000 to renovate and preserve Lee's Academy, which is the building I'm in now, where we have our administrative offices. So we are going to be creating the Madison Center for History and Culture. It's going to be kind of a community center. It will be ADA compliant, so accessible to all members of the community. And it's going to have interactive displays. It's going to have more traditional displays. So we're going to use our collection to tell the story of Madison. We'll be able to rotate those collections on a pretty regular basis. So we're very excited about the work that's going to be happening here at Lee's Academy and the preservation of this building. At the same time, we're also seeking other grant funding and funding from the community to preserve the Alice Bushnell House. We work continually on maintaining and preserving the building, but one of the things that we really identified most recently is just the risk for fire. in a 1785 building, made of wood,
Yeah.
that potential for fire is always ever present, and especially when you have buildings that, in some cases, have older electrical systems.
Yeah.
So we are going to be installing a dry fire suppression system to not damage, the collection, and then also upgrading our electrical systems. So we're always thinking towards the future. How do we maintain what we have so that it is available for future generations? And then as regards our programming, again, we're working on creating some educational videos. Our education chair is so passionate. She's constantly in touch with the schools, trying to figure out how she can support them. So the educational programs that we typically would have offered in person for students, we're now going to be trying to offer some virtual element. She's working on that now, and working again with some Daniel Hand high school students who will be doing some reenactments that we'll be filming. And then we hope that we'll be able to have our holiday lantern tour in December.
Right.
So looking towards the future, we hope to do that.
Good. Oh, that's excellent, because I'll be looking on the website for that one too.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again, Jennifer Simpson, for the Madison Historical Society. Thank you so much for sharing your time, and thank you for your work that you do for the community in preserving the history and all that we're going through. So
That's so kind of you. Thank you.
thanks again, and thank everyone else for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.